A Russian government official issued a statement on February 10, just days after the New START treaty officially came to an end, as reported by the TASS news agency. Russia and the United States are no longer bound by any mutual obligations under the previous arms control framework, said Russia's permanent representative to the United Nations. However, the Russian official emphasized that despite this change, Moscow intends to continue acting in a responsible and measured manner in the field of nuclear security. The official further stressed that Russia remains prepared to engage in constructive dialogue and work on an equal footing with other parties to help resolve the current situation. Vasily Nebenzya stated, quote, "No final, clearly formulated response from Washington to this proposal by Russian President Vladimir Putin to maintain the status quo ever followed. Therefore, we now proceed from the assumption that neither side is bound by any obligations in the context of the treaty. However, our country will in any case act responsibly and prudently, based on an analysis of the situation in the field of strategic stability." Unquote. This latest statement came as the bilateral Russia-US nuclear arms control treaty formally expired on February 5. Russia had earlier proposed extending the validity of the treaty by one more year beyond its expiration date to preserve strategic stability. US President Donald Trump had stated that he expected to negotiate a better agreement, one that would also bring China into the framework. Meanwhile, Russian officials have maintained that the decision to join any expanded arms control agreement ultimately rests with China and would fully respect Beijing's position, according to TASS. Russia also underlined that if the scope of the New START treaty were to be broadened, it must include US allies who possess nuclear weapons. This inclusion, Moscow said, should extend to the United Kingdom, France, and other NATO member states that have nuclear arsenals but are not covered under existing strategic arms limits. The New START treaty was originally signed in 2010 by then Russian President Dmitry Medvedev and US President Barack Obama. The accord placed strict limits on both the United States and Russia, capping their deployed strategic nuclear warheads at no more than 1,550 each. In addition, the agreement restricted the number of deployed delivery systems, such as missiles, bombers, and submarines, to a total of 800 on each side. The treaty also enabled both nations to monitor each other's non-deployed nuclear missile stockpiles to verify compliance and maintain transparency. The expiration of this treaty coincides with US efforts to broker a diplomatic settlement to bring an end to the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict. Reports suggest that Washington has set a June deadline for Moscow and Kiev to reach a potential peace agreement or framework for negotiation. However, most ongoing diplomatic talks between Russia and Ukraine have so far failed to produce any tangible breakthrough, according to multiple international reports.
Besides that, they made a proposal regarding Ukraine, and we were ready to accept it, and now we do not see any bright future in the economic sphere either. The Americans want to take control of all the routes for providing the world's leading countries and all continents with energy resources, while remaining open, just like India, China, Indonesia, and Brazil, to cooperation with all countries, including a major power such as the United States. We are in a situation where the Americans themselves are creating artificial obstacles along this path. We are simply forced to seek additional protected ways to develop our financial, economic, logistical, and other projects with the BRICS countries. We are told that the Ukraine problem should be resolved. In Anchorage, we accepted the U.S. proposal. If we approach it like a man, it means that they proposed it and we agreed. So the problem must be resolved. President Putin has said on many occasions that it is not important for Russia what Ukraine and Europe are going to say. We can clearly see the primitive Russophobia of most regimes in the European Union, with rare exceptions. The U.S. position was important to us.
This also comes at a time when fears of a possible US-Iran confrontation continue to rise following months of escalating regional tensions. The Kremlin, meanwhile, publicly welcomed the indirect negotiations between the United States and Iran that were held in Oman on February 6, viewing them as a positive sign for de-escalation.